For our project, we did LGBT rights. I'm Hailey.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Madison.
And I'm Anna.
For our research question, we did what are the long-term effects of discrimination against LGBT people?
Love is defined as an intense feeling of deep affection that one feels for another, and it is arguably the most powerful thing in the world, having the ability to bring people of different cultures and backgrounds together as one. However, the idea of love is not exclusive to heterosexual individuals. Yet, most of the time, the individuals who identify within the LGBT community, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, are persecuted and set apart as different.
Addressing our research question through the historical lens, we're going to start off around World War II. During World War II, 500,000 homosexual men were murdered in Nazi concentration camps. Although they were not Jewish, they were persecuted simply for being homosexual. This time period was one of the worst in terms of persecution and discrimination. The 1950s and 60s were a hard time to be an LGBT person. In a quote from an essay on the American Psychological Association website, Morris stated, "Throughout the 1950s and 60s, gay men and lesbians continued to be at risk for psychiatric lockup and jail, and for losing jobs or child custody when courts and clinics defined gay love as sick, criminal, or immoral." Most people in the 1950s and 60s were forced to hide their sexualities. A small victory was reached for the LGBT community in 1973 when the American Psychiatric Association removed homosexuality as a mental illness in their DSM book. While LGBT people still face discrimination today, conditions are improving. In polling in 2001, Americans opposed same-sex marriage by a 57% to 35% margin. Since then, the support of same-sex marriage has steadily grown. Based on polling in 2015, a majority of Americans, at 55%, support same-sex marriage compared with 39% who oppose it. The more and more people support the LGBT community, the less discrimination they'll be faced with. The graph shows that around 38% of out LGBT people face some form of discrimination at their workplace. Facing discrimination in the workplace can lead to lower productivity and increased anxiety and depression amongst LGBT employees. This study shows that even in our progressive times, LGBT people still face harassment, and we have much to advocate for to reach full tolerance and acceptance. 37% of all out LGBT people face any form of discrimination at their workplace.
When looking at this issue from a political standpoint, it is clear that the basic lawful rights of LGBT people have often been stripped. Several rights for the LGBT community have been added in the United States, such as legalizing gay marriage in all 50 states and legalizing same-sex acts, which had been outlawed in the United States until 2003. The Chelsea Manning case is a very controversial case on a transgender woman who fought in the military for more than 5 years. Chelsea Manning displayed the desire to begin her transition into her true gender as a female, and her military officials decided to treat her with gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a condition of a feeling that someone's emotional and physical identity as a male or female is the opposite of one's biological sex. In recent decades, people have learned to accept people for who they really are and not force them to be someone else. Last September, Chelsea Manning began fighting for a lawsuit for the people who decided to treat her with gender dysphoria. There has been lots of success under President Obama's administration. President Obama stated that no country should deny people of their rights because of who they love, which is why we must stand up for the rights of gays and lesbians everywhere. LGBT Vision for Action is an act that promotes and supports the inclusion of LGBT individuals that demonstrates the agency's commitment to LGBT inclusion, which was launched by the USAID in June of 2014. The Equality Act was introduced by several senators and representatives, and it establishes explicit, permanent protections against discrimination based on an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity. This protects the individuals in matters of employment, housing, access to public places, federal funding, credit, education, and jury service. In addition, It would prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex and federal funding and access to public places.
Discrimination is also prevalent in a social setting. Homosexual individuals are more likely to be victimized in schools or work than their heterosexual peers. In 2012, Kessel Schneider, an MSPH and project director in the Health and Human Development Division at the Education Development Center, conducted a survey in which Boston high schools showed 42.3% of LGBT participants reported having been bullied as opposed to 24.8% of their heterosexual peers. The figure almost doubles with the LGBT individuals. LGBT students are also less likely to report feeling very comfortable or comfortable on campus. Every day, social discrimination is an ongoing problem.
Looking at long-term effects of discrimination in the LGBT community, you can see that long-term effects of discrimination include mental illnesses, low health, low life satisfaction, suicide, and substance abuse. Now, looking at the LGBT community, most discrimination happens in their adolescent years. In the adolescent years, there are several places that discrimination can happen, such as home, school, the workplace, church, and the government. One place that discrimination happens mainly for adolescents in the LGBT community is school. In a 2011 national survey of 8,584 LGBT students from different school districts found that 85% of them reported often hearing gay being used in a negative way, and 57% heard homophobic phrases from teachers or school staff. This resulting in students not feeling safe or comfortable with being open about their gender or sexual orientation. Another place that discrimination mainly happens in an adolescent's life of the LGBT community is home. When a child comes out revealing their gender or sexual orientation to a parent, the reaction to a parent can vary from them either totally accepting or not accepting. Looking at the not accept perspective is not allowing adolescents to be open about their sexuality, blocking them from resources to learn about their sexuality, physical and or emotional abuse, and blocking them from the LGBT community. These reasons can vary to religious beliefs, social views on the LGBT community, or parents not knowing themselves about the LGBT community.
Overall, the effects of discrimination on the LGBT community are negative. The majority of those that are LGBT do not have a safe environment or a support system in their lives, and they're more likely to get mental illnesses and have a lower satisfaction with their lives.
Some possible solutions to the current problems are passing the Equality Act and enforcing basic civil federal rights for the LGBT community on a national scale. There are some organizations, such as the Human Rights Campaign and the American Civil Liberties Union, which continue to fight for the LGBT rights and advocate for laws to prevent discrimination against this community.
Although the LGBT community have been discriminated throughout their lives, they have had people to support them through and provide a safe environment for them. This is what we should have for everyone, feeling comfortable with themselves and who they love.
Thanks for watching!